Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission is always the same. We take this mountain of global sources, articles, research all your nights, and we try to distill it into the essential, fascinating analysis you need to be well informed. Today, we're locking onto a really dense snapshot of global events from December 16th, 2025. It's a day marked by governments attempting to control digital spaces, some really sharp shifts in domestic policy, and a lot of market anxiety about the future of the AI gold rush. Before we jump right in, though, a quick acknowledgement. This deep dive is brought to you by ProCare Hanoi. They're the phone and laptop repair shop trusted by the expat community. Fast service, clear communication, and honest advice. It's exactly what you need when you require fast, reliable tech support. And speaking of support, this show is a real labor of love. If you found value in any of the deep dives, I'd love your support. Buy me a coffee is just the simplest way to say thanks, and trust me, every single cup keeps the research going. Just scan the QR code in the podcast cover art. For those of you who've already supported us, we're truly, truly grateful you're fueling this journey.
And our goal today isn't just to, read off headlines, it's to connect the dots. We want to identify the signals these disparate events are sending about global trends. We're looking for three things, really, where governments are asserting new forms of regulatory control, how security and commemoration are defining community solidarity, and where the economic anxieties of big tech are starting to fracture that narrative of just unstoppable growth.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with a policy move out of Australia that is, well, it's a world first, and it could set a global precedent for regulating our digital lives. We're talking about the Online Safety Amendment that officially took effect. It bans children under 16 from major social media platforms. And the source material is very explicit. This includes giants like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, and even Reddit.
And what makes this so groundbreaking isn't the sentiment. I mean, we all know there are mounting global concerns over youth mental health in the digital age. It's the enforcement mechanism.
The stick, not the carrot.
Exactly. Australia is attaching a massive financial stick to this. Companies that don't comply are facing fines up to $33 million. This is the government saying, we view this as a public health crisis.
Yeah.
A crisis worth tens of millions of dollars to solve.
But the internet is famously resistant to legislative borders, right? So how are the platforms and the users actually reacting to this? This is an immediate sweeping change.
Well, we're already seeing significant blowback, which is, I think, critical to understanding the long-term viability of this whole approach. Our sources note the immediate complications. Parents and teens, they're already finding workarounds using VPNs, other methods. It just proves how difficult it is to enforce digital age verification with a single law.
Right.
And what's more, critics are warning that this ban, which is intended for safety, might inadvertently push young users toward less visible peer-to-peer or completely unregulated spaces where governments have zero oversight.
So the cure could actually be worse than the disease?
It could ironically create a less safe environment, yes.
And the legal battle has already started, which tells you a lot. Reddit has launched a high court challenge, arguing, maybe a bit ironically, that the law is ineffective for actually achieving safety.
Precisely. They're challenging the very principle that a broad ban achieves the goal. But look, regardless of the outcome, this move is a monumental test case. If Australia can successfully force global platforms to implement these aggressive age verification or exclusion mechanisms, it sets a regulatory firewall. And that could inspire similar laws all across Europe and Asia, fundamentally altering how social media operates globally. It's a move toward national digital sovereignty.
And if we connect this Australian maneuver to the bigger picture of global governance, we start seeing a pattern.
Yeah.
Governments using these massive financial penalties, not just for punishment, but as a strategic tool to control corporate behavior. We saw an immediate parallel in tourism regulation on the exact same day. Spain hit Airbnb with a massive 64 million euro fine. And this wasn't about youth safety, but specifically about cracking down on over-tourism by targeting the advertising of unlicensed rentals.
And you see, the mechanism is identical, isn't it? Whether the target is the digital safety of teens in Australia or the urban quality of life and housing scarcity in cities across Spain.
Right.
The government is setting corporate fines so high that compliance becomes the only viable economic choice. It essentially shifts the burden of policing the rental market or the age of users from the public sector, which just can't keep up directly onto the platform itself.
It's corporate compliance by brute financial force. But not all governance is about controlling global platforms. We also saw some significant, really foundational shifts in domestic lawmaking around the world on December 16th.
That's right, and these examples, they demonstrate the rapid and often highly polarized nature of domestic law right now. It's a sharp contrast to those global control efforts. In the U.S., the Supreme Court gave the green light to Texas's highly controversial congressional map for the 2026 midterms. I mean, this is a foundational ruling that immediately dictates the political battlefield for the next election cycle.
And then halfway across the globe, we saw an equally foundational but deeply personal law change in the Faroe Islands.
Exactly. After an incredibly narrow 17-16 parliamentary vote, the Faroe Islands legalized abortion in the first 12 weeks.
That's a razor-thin margin.
It is. And what connects the Texas map and the Faroes' abortion law isn't the subject matter, but the sheer polarization and the high stakes. These are decisions that redefine basic civil liberties, political representation, core values. And they're often decided by the slimmest possible margins in local parliaments. It just shows domestic governance moving at lightning speed on fundamental issues.
Okay, let's shift now from regulatory policy to matters of security and community identity. We have to address the ongoing fallout and the global response to the horrific events that occurred in Australia earlier in the week. The sources confirmed that Australia remains in mourning after that mass shooting that occurred during a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach. The attack is now confirmed as terrorism, resulting in the tragic loss of at least 16 people, including one gunman, and over 40 injured.
And the immediate global response, it really highlights the deep ties of community and solidarity that conflict so often brings to the forefront. Vigils have been held worldwide, and the reporting really emphasized the immediate support from international communities. This includes Israel holding widespread candlelight events in solidarity with the victims. Authorities are now deep into the investigation of the two attackers' motives, and this is happening against that complex backdrop of rising anti-Semitism concerns during the holiday season. It's a tragic moment where a community feels acutely vulnerable. The investigation is just. It's critical to understanding the specific threat landscape that led to this focused act of violence.
A tragic event defining the present, for sure. But December 16th also holds significant historical weight for commemoration in another part of the world. That day marks Vijay Diwas in India, which is a national celebration commemorating the decisive 1971 victory over Pakistan that ultimately led to the independence of Bangladesh.
And this is a moment of profound national pride. It's a powerful reminder of how historical conflicts and victories shape contemporary identity and, national purpose. Official communiques highlighted ceremonies all across the country honoring the armed forces, including Prime Minister Modi laying wreaths at the National War Memorial. It just reinforces that deep national connection to security and military sacrifice.
And that sense of national pride, that unification of community, it wasn't just found in history, it was echoed in a contemporary unifying triumph in the sports world that same week.
Indeed. Right alongside the solemn historical commemoration, India's team recently claimed the Squash World Cup with a decisive 3-0 win over Hong Kong. These seemingly disparate events, a tragic terrorist attack, a historical commemoration, and a sports victory, they all define who we are in a constantly shifting global context. They are all expressions of national and community solidarity, whether that's facing a threat, reflecting on sacrifice, or, celebrating an achievement.
That brings us neatly to the final and maybe the most volatile sector we're unpacking today: the economy, finance, and the future of big tech. Let's pivot to the markets, because this isn't just a slight dip. The sources suggest genuine anxiety about the fundamentals of the AI revolution, right?
Absolutely. We're seeing really jittery markets in the final trading week of 2025. The AI enthusiasm is cooling amid genuine fiscal concerns, causing big tech stocks to dip. And that dip isn't arbitrary. It reflects a core financial uncertainty. The market is beginning to tap the brakes and ask a crucial question about the enormous amounts of money being poured into the sector.
And what exactly is that question?
It's all about the return on investment, the ROI. For all of this massive AI infrastructure spending, we're talking about billions of dollars being poured into building immense hardware farms, acquiring specialized chips, hiring top engineering talent.
Right.
For years, the market just accepted the premise that this infrastructure had to be built and the profits would follow. Now investors are saying, show us the profit that justifies that enormous upfront expense. It has echoes of the dot-com boom, where infrastructure was rapidly overbuilt before the revenue models proved sustainable.
That anxiety is so starkly contrasted by some of the corporate movements we're seeing. On one hand, you have Tesla's board pocketing over $3 billion in stock awards. That's a stark figure that far outpaces its peers and speaks to a very specific culture of executive compensation. regardless of broader market jitters.
And then on the strategic side, you have a giant like Nvidia making a very calculated, almost defensive move. They are clearly looking to secure their dominance in the underlying infrastructure by acquiring the scheduling software firm SchedMD.
Okay, for the listener who isn't deep in high-performance computing, what is SchedMD? And why is that acquisition so strategically critical for a company like NVIDIA?
So SchedMD develops SLURM, which is essentially the job scheduler for high-performance computing clusters and massive server farms. Think of it like the air traffic control for supercomputers. By acquiring this tool, NVIDIA is bolstering its position not just in chips, but in the crucial infrastructure management layer that's required by major clients, especially those involved in open-source AI development. This acquisition is less about immediate profit and more about cementing control over the whole ecosystem. It's a defensive strategy against competitors like AMD and Intel who are trying to chip away at their foundation.
So you've got these massive payouts, strategic acquisitions, and then this underlying question of profitability. But the most critical warning for the entire sector seems to be coming from the investment giant Bridgewater Associates.
Yes, Bridgewater issued a warning that highlights the true systemic vulnerability of the current AI growth model, and that is the heavy reliance on external capital to fund the immense infrastructure required for AI. This is really crucial for the learner to understand. This raises an important question. If the capital fueling the AI boom, which is largely venture capital and debt, is external, it comes with aggressive short-term ROI demands.
Of course.
So if the returns on these billions of dollars in infrastructure investments start to lag behind those expectations, that external capital will dry up, and it will dry up rapidly. That means the entire debt-fueled structure that's supporting the foundation of the AI revolution. It could be at risk of instability, of potential collapse even. The technology might be transformative, but the financing behind it may be tragically fragile.
It's the kind of complex financial risk that could have really long-lasting effects on global stability. But let's finish this deep dive with a moment of pure perspective, a reminder that not all of our sources are about policy or finance. We have a genuinely awe-inspiring moment from the world of paleontology. Scientists have documented a stunning new discovery, 16,600 ancient theropod footprints. These are the ancestors of the T-Rex, and they're preserving what they've called dinosaur highways from millions of years ago. And the sheer scale of that number is just incredible.
It gives you instant perspective, doesn't it? Especially when we consider the ephemeral nature of today's headlines. The discovery speaks to the epic nature of life's journeys, regardless of the millennia. And one researcher offered a really profound quote in the reporting saying, "These tracks tell stories of survival that echo our own."
So what does this all mean? We've covered global policy aiming for regulatory controlled governments trying to put limits on platforms, on property. We've seen security challenges that test community solidarity and national identity. And we've analyzed economic systems based on future bets, particularly in AI, where the financing is arguably outpacing the demonstrated profitability.
I think the most compelling common thread in these wildly different stories, from Australia's social media ban to the market cooling over AI, is adaptation and survival. It is. It's survival in the face of information overload, survival amidst geopolitical tensions and historical commemoration, and the continuous survival of business models within these volatile financial markets. Every major headline we touched on today is fundamentally about adapting to the next challenge, leaving a record of that struggle. And building on that powerful quote about ancient survival, we can leave you with this provocative thought. In a world changing this fast, where laws and fortunes shift daily, which of today's headlines? Whether it's the new Australian tech bans, the fragility of the AI market, or the outcomes of those narrow parliamentary votes, which of those will leave the deepest, most lasting footprints a million years from now?
A great question for us all to chew on as we navigate the news. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the global snapshot of December 16th, 2025. Thank you for joining us as we unpack the source material. A final sincere thank you again to those who supported the show via Buy Me a Coffee. We truly appreciate your support. Until the next deep dive, we encourage you to keep digging into the source material.